Here's Kyle Shanahan after the game on losing Lance.
It's tough. You feel for someone so bad. It's it's a sad moment, but you don't have time to sit there and think about it. You got to get right back to the game, and I thought the guys did a real good job of that. But and we were real happy about the win, but it was a little sombering once you get in the locker room.
Here's Kyle Shanahan on having Jimmy G to turn to.
We feel very fortunate to have Jimmy here as our number 2 quarterback, and especially when your starter gets hurt, it's good to know the experience and how good of a player he is. I think feel like we've lost our starting quarterback. This would be, I think, the 4th time in 6 years. So we have been in this before, and I do feel we're a little more prepared with our backup right now.
A little more? Yeah, I mean, it's now look, this is a bizarre case of dumb luck. That's what it is. Don't let the Niners tell you otherwise, and I don't think they would. They wanted to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They wanted to clear out space for Trey Lance. They didn't do it because, well, they couldn't trade him because he's recovering from a right shoulder injury. And by the time he did come to speed, he's making too much money, and there wasn't really the market out there for him. And Garoppolo could have been released and said, I'll take backup money, I'll stay and hang, and maybe I get a shot. If not, then I'll be a free agent next year. I think yesterday was the end of Trey Lance at the Niners. And you're like, man, Gottlieb, that's so harsh. I don't make the rules of the NFL. I'm just telling you the reality. Now, maybe next year he gets a shot to fight to be a starter. Maybe. But you think about it, Lance, it wasn't like he blew everybody out of the water in terms of his preparation and performance in the preseason. Last year he was very, very green because he was a project guy. He only played 1 game his last year in college because of the COVID year. But it wasn't like it was that he's so good, of course they'll get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't care. They have the guy. Nobody said that. Nobody said it for a reason. So you factor in nobody knows how good he is. He's still inexperienced, and next year he's going to be equally inexperienced. And now he's coming off of an injury, and one of the arguments, I don't think it's the only reason or even the majority reason, but one of the reasons that the Niners want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo was he's always hurt. And now the guy that replaced him gets hurt the second game in. I think this only works one of 2 ways. Garoppolo's not great, and they move on from him at the end of the season, but they're going to go after another quarterback. Or Jimmy Garoppolo is good, and Jimmy gets his job back and he re-signs, and Trey Lance is his backup and still develops. And remember, next year's year 3. He's not making a ton of money, but at the end of year 3, they have to decide whether or not they want to pick up the 5th year. So the money is basically already spent. I mean, he'll be making, several $1 million next year, but not gigantic money. You really make that your first year and then your 5th year of a rookie contract. So he's not making big money. Yes, they gave up a lot of draft picks to get him, but now we're in year 3. I think the days of him being handed the starting quarterback job with the Niners ended yesterday with that injury. That's the reality of the league. That's the reality of where he is as a player, how he's performed to date, and having an injury at this point in the season, which is a golden opportunity for Jimmy Garoppolo to do the ultimate to the Niners and maybe to the rest of the league. Because as much as you could say, hey, Garoppolo, he's got to be feeling himself in the Niners locker room. He was right there wrong. 1, still got a lot of football to play. We've seen what he can do. And 2, it wasn't like the rest of the league was like, Jimmy Garoppolo's available. He's been available since the end of last year. He's been available. So he's not just proving the Niners wrong. He would prove most in the league wrong. The Cleveland Browns had no interest in him, despite the fact they won't have Deshaun Watson first 11 games. The Carolina Panthers traded for a quarterback that I know is his left shoulder, but came off a shoulder injury in a Baker Mayfield. No interest in Jimmy Garoppolo. The Houston Texans, who are run by some ex-New England Patriot guys, they prefer Davis Mills. So, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is just proving the Niners wrong if he leads them to a Super Bowl or some incredible run. I think he's proving the entire league wrong. And it's not that people didn't like him. It's that he was making a lot of money, and I don't know where it got to in terms of the ultimate negotiations. But the bigger takeaway is not the turnarounds and the comebacks yesterday were amazing. I have a thought for you on the Green Bay Packers that I think everybody's missing. Like the Packers are transforming themselves for the better, even if it looks like a half step back here. I'll explain that later on. But the biggest thing is that's the last you'll see of Trey Lance being the starting quarterback of the Niners without some sort of fight next year in training camp or another injury to somebody else.